my house to yours. Welcome to EMS at Sea Level. I am joined by Lou Hughes. Lou, always a pleasure to chat. Lou is the CEO of IMI. I got a
Phil,
good
it's
look at
great to see
your,
you.
yeah, good to see you too, my friend. I got a good look at your 2025 results, and it feels like it's a real pivotal year in terms of changes that you've made as CEO to the business and really delivering on what you were trying to achieve and what we talked about in previous discussions. When I look at the numbers, there's some interesting stuff through. There's a deleveraging story. You've really cut net debt from nearly 200 million to just under 120, which is a remarkable achievement in a single year. What drove that discipline? What was the change internally? And does the balance sheet reflect maybe a more offensive, more aggressive strategy for 2026?
Yeah, Phil, that's a great question. When I joined the company in early 24, we had about 280 million in net debt. So over the course of the past 2 years, we've taken net debt down to 110. This year, we expect to be investing in our business a bit because now we're looking to go back into growth mode. The
Hmm.
past 2 years have really been about reviewing our sites because,
Mm.
I think we had far too many sites. I'm a believer in fewer, larger sites that operate efficiently because of overhead distribution. So now we're down to a total of 5 sites globally, two in Europe, two in China, 6 sites, two in Europe, two in China, one in Philippines, and one in Mexico.
Uh-huh.
And that's down from what was, almost 15 sites when I joined. And we're doing, about 20% less revenue than when I joined. But I think we've done a good job of focusing the company on the customers that have long-term value for the
Mm.
company and that leverage the company's differentiated capabilities.
Yeah.
So you're going to see us continue to invest in mechanical. We
Mm.
have invested heavily over the last 12 months in the Philippines in mechanical, which, the Philippines had no in-house mechanical capabilities. We didn't have injection molding at all. We didn't have machining, and we don't have metal stamping. So now
Mm.
we've got a full machining capability together with the second or third largest Chinese machining company, which gives
Yeah.
us great capabilities there in terms of just the capability of machining and finishing,
Yeah.
and but raw material supply from China because we go through one pass in China and then we move the material because you can't export the raw steel.
Yeah.
So we do a single pass and then bring it down to the Philippines, and we've invested in a lot of equipment there to be able to do the finishing and of course then have product available at the right price
Yeah.
for a lot
Yeah.
of our precision business with the locking companies, with access control, with automotive and et cetera.
Mm.
So,
Yeah.
injection molding is also, we've got 4 machines in now, the Philippines, and, we have the ability in our shop to go to 40 machines. And so I
Wow.
think in the next 12 months, you'll see that happen. And, our continued focus on electromechanical, things that are difficult to
Yeah.
build from an electromechanical perspective. You're going to see us continue to focus on that kind of work.
Mm.
We're also investing heavily in power module packaging.
Right.
So that business is doing great for us right now as, the power modules get more and more dense,
Mm.
from a power and thermal perspective.
Yeah.
The packages that we've chosen to invest in, like the Easy Pack form factor, are right on, and we've got
Mm.
multiple customers we're building for, and that business will go from a $15 million business to a $50 million business next year or this year, into next year. And then the
Yeah.
following year, it'll be $100 million business. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
am really, really excited about where we're going with the power module packaging
Yeah.
business. And then there's camera, right? The driver
Yeah.
side monitoring cameras,
Yeah.
which is a business that we've invested heavily in from a design perspective. And operationally, we're kicking off the first two big customers in Q1. And
Mhm.
that's been a little bit of a struggle, but we're coming through that. And that business, is going to go from that business is going to double in size due to regulation.
Yeah.
So we're really excited about what's happening there. And
Yeah.
um, and then, just overall our megatronics business, that's our single biggest segment in automotive. And these are basically control devices for, doors,
Mm.
windows, side view mirror, wipers, where you've got a pretty simplistic PCB with an intensely difficult connector that's insert
Mm.
molded and in some case 2K molded. So we're really, doubling down in that business because
Yep.
I think we're one of the best at it internationally, and we can be the low cost supplier in the regions that we're in, Philippines, Mexico, Bulgaria, Serbia.
Mm.
So yeah,
Yeah.
that's
It
a
feels
that's a
that's a
the
snapshot.
message is we're getting back into growth mode, right? We're
Yeah.
going from what was a heavy pairing and optimization process over the
Mm.
last 24 months, getting our balance sheet back in order, and
Yeah.
now really focused on getting back into growth mode.
Yeah, and I think that's really interesting. And when you look at it, beyond those beyond the financial constraints within that and getting everything, as you say, the balance sheet and the P&L as well in order, it's been a thoughtful process. You've increased your non-automotive business to, I think, what, 38% or so of core revenue,
Yep,
which is really important. Czechoslovakia's out, Serbia's growing, you're absorbing transfers into Bulgaria, so Europe feels like it's settling around those two facilities. You've got
absolutely.
whatever's you've got.
Lowest labor rate in EU is Bulgaria. Little known
Yeah,
fact. So,
absolutely.
great skilled workforce,
Yeah.
great site for us.
Mm.
They do mechanical extremely well. We do cable assembly there. Because the labor rates are low, we can be great at mix. If there's no automation. And then Serbia is non-EU and even lower
Yeah.
labor rates and great positioning geographically
Yeah.
to support customers in Europe. So, yeah, moving out of Czech was an important move for us. We only lost about 40 million, 30 to $40 million in business. And
Okay.
we consolidated most of it down into Serbia and Bulgaria. So
Yeah.
from a P&L perspective, it was a great move for us. A little
Yeah, and
bit,
a successful transfer.
yeah, a little bit painful, because,
No, of
you're
course.
transferring internally, but now that that's over, I think we're just in a really good place financially.
Yeah.
And that's really important because when I joined, things
You went
were
up.
pretty tentative, right? So.
Yeah, absolutely. And a part of that rationalization comes in around China. Is Does China feel different than it did 5 years ago? Does China feel different than it did even when you joined the company? Has it changed in terms of that low cost factory of the world?
Yeah, I think China is the low cost factory of the world without a doubt. I think China is, from an operating perspective, even today, I think they're our most cost effective factory when it comes to execution.
Mm.
Phil, they're just fantastic for us,
Mm.
right? But the
Yeah.
problem is sales, right? We have to be able to compete with a lot of the state-owned companies when it comes to automotive in China.
And
Um,
there's capacity, isn't there? There's a lot of capacity there.
there's a lot of capacity because, so many of the companies are leaving China for substantial transformation in Southeast
Mm,
Asia and Mexico as it relates to U.S. business due to the tariffs and due to the geopolitical pressures. So,
mm,
we're seeing a lot of business leave China, and that's why we reduced our footprint almost in half. Right when I joined, I knew that I had to be aggressive about reducing footprint there.
mm,
So we did that. Our sites, we took the two Shenzhen sites and brought it into one. We took the Chengdu site and merged it into Jiaxing, which is up near Shanghai. And,
mm.
now we're operating at 60% capacity, right? Which
Yeah,
still isn't great, but at least we're making
but
money
it's a lot better.
a
Yeah,
lot better.
yeah,
So, there are opportunities out there. I think it's up to our sales team to find them. And I think a
yeah,
lot of the opportunities are shipping back to Europe because Europe is still pretty open to receiving
yeah,
exports from China.
yeah.
And then
And
it's China for China, right? We've got to
yeah, of
be,
course.
and our team there has to step up, especially on the sourcing side with mechanical and electromechanical. That's where we can win versus the majors, who we're
Mm.
never going to beat them with active or discrete electrical purchases. We just don't have the volume. But we can be scrappy on the electrical and electromechanical side.
Mechanical stuff. Yeah, yeah, and that's where you need to be. And I think it's fascinating what you say about the opportunity in Europe because of the geopolitical tensions we've seen have actually pushed Europe and China a little bit close together in terms of trade relations as the US European trade relations has perhaps had some stress there. When you look at what else is going on in Asia, obviously you have the facility in the Philippines. Do you look to anywhere else? Does the grass look green in India, for example, where many
It's
companies are investing?
Yeah, you're a straight man. I flew back, and I haven't even talked to you about this. I flew back Friday from Delhi.
Hmm.
So I was there for a week and a half with a potential partner that we're talking to, and we're looking, that corridor from Delhi down to Pune
Mm.
is the corridor that we're looking to invest in. And our power module, they don't have a good power module packaging company,
Okay.
local to India. So there's a real drive from the government side for that. So
Mm.
I was there for that. And then there's also nobody in the camera business there for modules.
Okay.
So, right now the tariff on components for camera is higher than the tariff to import a finished module, right? And the government knows they have to change that.
Mm.
So again, exchanges with the government up in Delhi on that front.
Yeah.
And we're already invested there on the component engineering and design engineering side down in Coimbatore. So, I really am bullish about India.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah. If you were gonna
that
if you're
there's
gonna
good
add a
opportunity.
location, that would be the opportunity. And
Yep.
there is no doubt we're going to see growth there. It's just a question of who can seize that opportunity and who has the right kind of skill set and the right muscle to do that. You
Yep.
talked a little bit earlier about supplier shock, quite
Yep.
specifically, and that had a big impact in Q4. It feels like it's a broader industry vulnerability. There seems to be an issue around suppliers at the moment. We're seeing problems with memory chips. AI is sucking all the oxygen out of the room in the chip foundries. Um, how are
Yeah.
you thinking about supply chain resilience, and what do you see as you have a strategic supplier initiative? What does that actually look like in practice?
What it looks like is being intentional about who your
Mm,
partners are,
yeah,
and defining, not allowing your customers to define everything as it relates to
yeah,
who the suppliers are going to be. For us
mm,
to have a seat at the table with the customers and by the way, to earn that seat at the table, because I feel
yeah,
like, if you don't have a strong sourcing team, if you don't go out and create some value and differentiation through your sourcing efforts, then you're not going to get a seat at the table,
yeah.
especially with the big global, ODMs, OEMs that we work with.
Mm,
So on both the industrial and automotive side. So we've worked really hard, as I mentioned, especially in electromechanical. These are things like power supplies, magnets, springs, batteries. Just go down the displays, go down the list of all those electromechanical items that have to be good, great quality, but then
Mm.
also have to be very, very sharply priced. And I think
Yeah.
we've done a great job developing relationships with the very best in those fields, those commodities, and we're bringing those ideas to customers and commercializing those
Mm.
suppliers within our supply chain, and then we're rationalizing some of the suppliers out who our customers have defined in the past. And then, I would tell you that on the active side, we don't provide much value. These are the ICs,
Mm.
semiconductors, memory. Our customers are very intentional in that area. They're designing software in those areas. So
Yeah.
yeah, we kind of stay out of that, Phil. And maybe that's been a good thing for us because that's
Mm.
been, I think, the world that's been really tight of late.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then, on the passive and discrete side, it's from my perspective, it's China Inc. right now. So,
Yeah.
I am really doubling down with some of the Chinese suppliers
Yeah.
in that area, and I think that's helped us with from a competitiveness perspective because some of the other big companies, the top tier EMS, are not as aggressive in that front. I
Mm.
don't feel like. And so I think that gives us a little edge and
Mm.
differentiation because we're sure as heck not going to compete with them with the typical suspects. We don't have the
Yeah.
volume that
Yeah.
they do, and they just buy better because of that volume.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's a supply chain is a huge part of what we do. At the end of the
Oh,
day,
it's
we're a
75%
service
of the
industry.
value,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a huge part of the process. So having areas that you can excel in, and as you say, being super intentional about that kind of thing. You also seem to be very intentional about CapEx. Last year was a kind of a crossroads year for CapEx. Now you're investing very much in the like you say, the mechanical areas,
Mechanical.
in the molding areas, in stuff that you think is really adding value. Do you feel that there are vertical integrations that really resonate with your customer, that they feel, okay, if these guys have got this and this in the same campus, and they have got these larger campuses, it really fits with with their outsourcing strategy?
Yeah, I think, our facilities, if you go to Philippines, right, you don't find the best supply base for
Mm,
things like
of course.
plastics and
Yeah.
machining and metal stamping, right? And so the company has traditionally had to source those items out of Malaysia, China, Taiwan. And with shipping cost, with oil where it's gone, shipping cost just seems to, go up, 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 and up. After COVID, it was high during COVID, right? It came down a little bit post COVID. Now
Mm,
it's right back up to where it
yeah.
was during COVID. So,
Yeah.
shipping big, bulky, low value parts is just not the right way, right?
No.
So localizing a supply base in the Philippines, which is where
Yeah.
that's our biggest site, right?
Mm,
Has been incredibly important for us and has been incredibly important to make our customers feel secure that we
yeah.
can control our own destiny there. So machining, injection molding is done. I think you're going to see us get into the metal stamping world pretty quick there. And then in Mexico, we've got injection molding. You're going to see us go into machining there next. Similar situation in Mexico where they've got plenty of injection molding facilities and locations,
Mm,
but for whatever reason, we can't seem to buy at a competitive price from those
yeah.
outsourced suppliers. So,
Mm,
we've really had to take that into our own hands to get competitive price points for our customers. And then, Bulgaria, we've been injection molding for the last 5 years. Now we're doubling down on injection molding there, especially precision, insert 2K, that kind of
Yeah.
molding that supports our megatronics business nicely. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean
And
those are the areas because look in SMT we have all kinds of capacity, right?
mm,
Automation, test. We have very flexible test equipment.
yeah.
So we don't really have to invest. We're still only operating, at 50 or 60% utilization globally for
Yeah.
those assets. So we don't have a lot of investment to make. It's in mechanical and it's in power module, and that makes us a very cash flow positive
Yeah.
business, right? So
Yeah. I think it's really interesting, Lou. I've kind of followed the IMI story before you joined, and I followed it throughout your tenure. And the word I would describe that I would use to describe your tenure is something that you've used, which is intentional. You've come in, you've looked at the business, you've been very intentional about the footprint, you've been very intentional about the product mix, very intentional about what you want to do with the financial side of the business to build to this point you are, this inflection point you are at the moment. And
yeah,
yeah,
and
it's
and one thing I really want to get across to anybody watching today, right, is that IMI is intentional in each of its segments, right? For
mm,
automotive, we are active safety, which is camera. We are
mm,
megatronics, which is all the controls that you find throughout the car that need connectors, need
mm,
mechanical and some electrical. And then we're lighting. One of the things I didn't speak about is exterior lighting. When it comes to LED headlights, we have a technology we call HALP, which is high accuracy LED placement. And it gives us the ability to very, very precisely orient the LEDs on a PCB using a really interesting mix of adhesives plus solder and paste, basically. And so we're really good in that world. Plus, we have big injection presses that can build the housings, the rear housings of
mm.
those headlights, which are very complex and large and tight tolerance. So those are our three businesses in automotive. In industrial, we're access, control, and electromechanical locks and locking, and we're sensors because we've got a
Mm.
lot of different sensor customers, and then over the top of all of that is power module, right? Because
Yeah.
we're selling power modules now for each of those verticals, including data center, including EV, right? And that's really nice because we have access to
Yeah.
all those customers. So when we're in with our bag, selling them the things that I just mentioned, we're also making sure they know about what we do in power module.
Yeah, no, it's fascinating. You look at a sector, you understand the IP, you understand what needs to be in-house for you to be able to manufacture that, and you've really built muscle very specific to those marketplaces, which is great. I've enjoyed watching the journey so far. I'm looking forward to the coming chapters. So keep us informed. But in the
Great.
meantime, Lou, thanks so much for your time. Thank you.
Thanks for talking to me, Phil. It's been great.